Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swagglehaus. A very special stream,
Hey.
joined by two very special guests. We got Manu, the 99 Newsstand, and Rob, Neo's Cards of Comics, also co-streaming on his YouTube channel as well. So hello to everyone watching from his side of the collectible world. Gentlemen, we got a big show tonight. We got a very important show. You know, we're here to report the news.
That's right.
Because that's what we do. We report on the news and we just tell you guys what's happening because we ourselves have no additional insights.
No, nothing.
So we're going to talk about the big news that came out this week. PSA announcing officially that they are entering the comic book grading world. Big news coming out this week, leading into what is surely to be another week of big news at San Diego Comic-Con. But yeah, we thought it'd be important to bring ourselves together, you know, on this Sunday evening and talk about this. I mean, there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to go over. And, you know, we all kind of did our respective videos on our channels. And of course, Manu had, you know, his post on his IG. And I think it would be kind of a fun thing for us tonight to, you know, even with everyone in the chat, to just talk about it, you know, give our thoughts, give our opinions. And also maybe add some context that we do also have as well. I don't know if either of you guys want to kind of share that or kind of set that up for me.
Rob?
Yeah, this should be an absolutely insane week because we have San Diego Comic-Con, we have the National, which is the sports version of San Diego Comic-Con, and we have Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
It's like overstimulus in the collectible world.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm just, I just report the news. I don't know anything, you know? So, you know, I will definitely report on the things that I don't know that are going to be happening at Hall H. Because I don't know what's happening at Hall H. Because I don't know anything and I don't know and nobody tells me anything. But I will report on the news.
It's going to be exciting.
It's going to be exciting. And hypothetically, if I did know what was going to happen, I would hypothetically be listing certain hypothetical books on my
what we should have done, and this was our mistake, we should have booked guests that have had hands on the PSA slab. We
should have.
You know, that would have been a good idea. Could you imagine if we had actually been able to handle the first encapsulated comic books by PSA? That would have really been something, wouldn't it?
Wait. You know what's funny? I know somebody who has handled it.
Wait, who?
Can you bring them on?
Yeah. Let me bring them on.
Are they available?
Let me bring them on. Hey, it's 99 Newsstand. Fresh from PSA.
Swag, how could I forget? You and I were at PSA.
Oh, we were?
Oh, wait a second.
I've never been. No, I've never been there. Hypothetically, if I were to have.
Sure. If you were someone that had gone to PSA with me, you would have been at PSA with me. That's right. That's right.
If I hypothetically were to have gone with you to PSA to analyze the cases and give feedback and hold them in my hands, then I would share what I thought about them in the stream tonight.
Right. Yeah. You know, so we'll just make things up for the time being since that never happened.
Yeah.
But do you think
I'm just going to imagine what I would say if I have seen the cases and share it with all you guys tonight, if I had seen them.
Do you think they would slab this if this was my pass to PSA on a particular day about a month ago? That'd be cool.
Well, they'd have to verify that it was real. This is all hypothetical. We don't know that that's real.
Right. I could have just printed that.
You could have just printed it.
But it looks good, doesn't it? That's cool. Anyway, yeah, lots to talk about today. Oh, you know what, Rob? Rob said in his video the other day, he said that it's very nice that he's finally able to talk about this because he said he had known for quite some time. So that's interesting. Rob, you want to tell us something about that?
And I'll speak for my two co-hosts here who are playing a little coy. The three of us have been involved in this process since like the first of the year to some degree. We were basically part of the feedback team that they had, that they were bouncing stuff off of. We have no direct, I don't know what to say. Well, I'm not going to say like we're pulling puppet strings or anything crazy like that, but we were just part of I guess focus group's probably the best way to describe that, I guess. I don't know.
So and Rob's right. And we you know, had this communication, and I just feel really grateful to be able to be in that place where they do want to hear what somebody from the community, the actual collecting community, is saying, and what some of the opinions are. And that's kind of why I'm so encouraged to make these posts and really suggest that our friends engage with them and tell us how they feel, the good and the bad, because at the end of the day, and we'll talk about this at length, at the end of the day, PSA wants to deliver something that we want to buy. You know, they don't want to disappoint us. They're actually in a position right now for the next couple of months to refine what they've been working on to really make it something that we love and we believe in, right? Because ultimately this conversation is going to end up in a lot of different places, but one of those places is going to be like, what happens with secondary market and secondary market value for these PSA slabs, whichever ones ultimately come out to market. They're not going to right away command a premium, but our belief in what they're offering us is going to give us the confidence to trade those and have this confidence that they are going to continue to do right by us. So again, this is my long-winded way of saying we're in a place right now where we can actually influence the decisions that they make, and we have pretty good relationships there, and we respect those relationships, and we want to continue to give them the information that will help them provide us a service that we actually care about paying for. Ultimately, this is going to be good for everyone, and if they do well, you know, so that's where we're at.
Yeah, of course. And just to properly set us off and kick us off in our conversation tonight, and definitely chat. If you guys have thoughts and stuff, please feel free to share, and maybe we can bounce off you guys as well. But you know, let's just kind of frame it properly, you know, in case you guys hadn't heard, which I'm sure you guys have. You know, earlier this week, PSA put out their press release. PSA expands into comic book and magazine grading. You know, we covered it extensively in our various videos, but you know, in short, this right here is the, you know, the, what do you call it? The prototype of what their comic book slab is going to be. Let me start with you, Rob. I mean, I think when you're someone who obviously knows PSA very well. You know, you know a great deal about sports cards. They are the premier grading company within the card world. How did you feel initially about seeing the slab, seeing their label? What was your sort of initial impressions of this? And are you disappointed that it's not too different than, I suppose, what the card grade label was already, you know, to begin with?
I'm not surprised it looks the way that it does. And once again, I think we should note that I don't think any of us believe that any of this stuff is locked in, set in stone. That I do think that they are going to take feedback. They are reading comments. They are reading chats. They're looking at this stuff to see what the feedback is. Now, that being said, I don't expect this label to drastically change. This is just my own gut. PSA is all about the branding, and like it or not, that red border around the white label with the PSA, they call that PSA holographic thing in the middle of the lighthouse. That's their part of their anti-security, your anti-theft device built into their labels. That's just what they're known for. It's going to take a lot to get them off that from a branding side. Now, could they adjust the font where, you know, maybe the grade on the right-hand side pops more and some things move around, and, you know, I'm sure all that stuff could potentially change. I think it'll be a tall task to get them off the red border and the lighthouse in the center. I don't necessarily mind the lighthouse in the center. It's just people in the sports card side compare it to a prescription label. It is very no nonsense, basic. Here's the information that you need, which I guess in theory is all that you really need. But I get it. It's not the most pop out, you know, sell the book label that exists in the market. The case, I don't necessarily mind the frosting along the side. I saw some people talk about that, but once again, I'm kind of used to that from PSA card cases, and I think it actually kind of makes the book pop out a little bit more from the case versus having it like crystal, like the sides crystal clear. I mean, and once again, I'm going to lean to you guys because Manu and Swags have had the case in hand because they live in California. I live in Ohio, so I'm not by PSA's offices, so I was not able to get hands-on one yet, but I am planning on shortly, hopefully. So, like, the center part of the case, did that seem super clear? Like, did the book pop out on it, having it in hand?
Well, I haven't seen the case, so this is all hypothetical. for me. But I will. I'll let Manu jump in. But yeah, it's speaking specifically about the frosting. I do think there is one thing that is nice about it, and that is from what I would think that they have various cuts as far as like the inner frosting is concerned. So as say a Hulk 181 is a certain size, a modern comic book is a little bit slimmer, a Golden Age comic book is a little bit bigger, and what you sometimes find happening inside of CGC cases, for instance, is like the book might be slabbed in the case and it's completely aligned to the right, and then there's like this big like gap on the left side, or vice versa, or maybe it's the book is kind of at the bottom and then the top is sort of missing a space. What's nice about this is that it seems like the frosted framing is always going to keep the book center. So whether or not it's a Golden Age book that fills up more of it or a modern book that fills up less of it, it'll always be center. And that, I think, is a nice feature for what the frosted plastic kind of allows. But I don't know. That's all hypothetical. What do you think, Manu, as somebody who actually has seen it?
So yeah, I'll provide. I'll go a little deep into this. So going into this, even prior to having seen the slab or having the opportunity to see the slab, I never imagined that it wouldn't be on brand. Like Rob said, like Neo said, like it's always going to be on brand. That red border, it's not necessary, but it makes a lot of sense for it to be there, right? And many of us that deal in PSA cards and love PSA cards, we've been dealing with the criticisms about the labels forever. It doesn't stop the cards from selling. It doesn't stop them from being the most valuable. And quite frankly, I like the whole, what was the medical ticket? What did you call it?
Prescription labels.
I like that no nonsense approach to it, but I can understand how people have been, appreciative of the sort of prettier labels out there and prettier designs that some companies offer. I'm not too troubled by it. My feedback before having seen it in person was, if this ends up being what comes to market, I like it enough. Let's just go ahead and see where this goes, type of thing. But that's before I realized that there was actually opportunity to critique this and change it. And so when we were there, when I was there, right, in person, and I had an opportunity to handle it, first, I was just excited. You know how I get, man. I'm just excited about being a part of this, being an extension of the community's voice in the building. Like, I really love playing that. I want to be that person. I'm hugely grateful for that. And so first I was just geeking out, right? And then I won't divulge too much, because there's going to be some surprises around the corner, and surprises are fun when they actually surprise you. But I liked it. The book is obviously clear. Can clear be more clear? Sure. To the degree that I needed to be clear, it was clear. So, that's all I can say about that. And I've always been someone that appreciates the frosting, because I believe it brings the focus to the book. And I make this sort of sarcastic joke about, like, everyone likes the clear edges, but that just means you can clearly see what's behind the slab. That's just me being kind of sarcastic. I get why the clear edges look really good, but I don't mind the frosting. And so the actual, like, sort of what's the construction of the case worked for me. And then the other feedback that may not actually make it into the production slab was that it was really solid, like really heavy. And I'm not saying it's not going to be solid and secure, but the weight might be reduced a little because of some changes that they have to make. And we won't talk about what those are, because those are already going to be changed. So there's no reason to highlight that. But then after having held, hopefully, if our friends that I respect very much at PSA are listening, hopefully they're not, this isn't saying too much, but there was a moment that they had sealed the first book. And I got very excited, and I wanted to go handle this. I was like a kid, like, there's a sealed one now. You seal the first one, give it, right? And because we had already handled them closed, but not sealed it. They had to go through the machine to seal. And once I handled that, I was asked, how do you like the label? And that's when, instead of being an excited child about it, I started to actually sort of critique it in my mind. And there were a couple of things that I said, and a couple of things that, hypothetical swag said as well. And they do care very much about that feedback, because the one thing I said before providing my feedback was, is this set in stone? Like, what's the point of me critiquing it if it's set in stone? And we were told that it is not set in stone. And there is very much opportunity for another version to come out. Not, like Rob said, it's not going to be too far different from this, but there are improvements or enhancements or changes that could be made. One of my criticisms that a friend of ours in the chat shares, Jose, is that the silver holographic shiny area around the PSA logo seems sort of large, right? And I just kind of said that that space around the PSA seems kind of big, and other people have shared that, so maybe they take that into consideration. I know Swag has made this observation, and other friends have made this observation as well. They kind of want the 9.4, the grade, to be a bit larger. You know, they like where it's at, but maybe a bit larger. So maybe there's the opportunity for some fine. Actually, I know for a fact there's the opportunity for tweaking this. But the one thing that we can't be, there's one thing that's unavoidable, is that there's no way there's going to be a label that everyone loves. There's no way that it's going to please everyone. There's no way that it's going to be a perfect label. But we have to, I appreciate the fact that they want to deliver us a product we like, because that's how they're going to succeed. And even if they don't get it right out the gate, they're still going to work on satisfying us. It's very important for them to satisfy us, or else they're not going to get a repeat customer out of us. You know, so we literally have that line of communication. I think we should take advantage. But to assume that they're going to redesign their brand and their language, that's just not going to happen. And I don't think it's a good idea for them to redesign in that sort of dramatic a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a couple of criticisms that I had seen on various places about, like, oh, I can't believe they're not launching until 2025. And just to the point that you were making, Manu, I think that one of the things that I thought was a smart move on their part was, you know, they want feedback and they're open to, say, reasonable changes within, you know, obviously what is, you know, capable. I mean, the ship is moving in a certain direction. So, you know, they can only change so many things. But, you know, as far as tweaks on the label, I mean, you know, the look is the look, their style guide is their style guide, you know, so I don't know if we're going to say change that red border with the PSA logo right there. But, you know, I'm sure if the community says, hey, we want the 9.4 to be bigger, or we would rather have, you know, the first appearance on the right side, or whatever it is, like they're open to hearing that feedback. And I think that was kind of a smart move, because admittedly, you know, if I had seen the label in person, which of course I haven't, if I had seen the label in person, my comments would have been, I think people are going to critique it. I think people are not going to like it. I might have said something like that hypothetically, but being that they're coming out as like, hey, we're open to feedback, I think that puts them in a good position to you know, take the feedback, you know, and decide what to do with it. You know, I mean, maybe this is going to be the final version. Maybe they're not going to listen to anybody. But if you know, if you're people out there and you have feedback for them, I mean, they're definitely reading comments, they're definitely watching videos, and they're definitely interested in what people have to say, which is a good thing. You know, that's what you want from your grading companies.
Absolutely. And sorry, please, Neil. Yeah.
I was going to say, regarding the weight that you guys were talking about earlier. So just so chat knows, they just recently, and I assume, I don't know this for sure, I assume the comic book slab is going to use this. They just recently switched to new some high-end medical grade plastic on their sports cards. And I have to imagine this is the same plastic for this, because one of the things people noticed on their card slabs coming back is that they were noticeably heavier. Now, it's a card, so that's only so heavy that it could possibly get, but there was definitely a little bit of a heft difference. So I have to imagine that this feels, once again, I have not held one. No, I am not joking. I literally have not held one yet.
Yeah, me neither.
That I have to imagine they feel pretty quality in hand, because like it's going to feel premium. And generally speaking, PSA slabs are like we all know CGC had some issues with slab security. I don't think that'll be an issue with a PSA slab, just based on how their card slabs seal up. Like, you cannot crack a modern PSA slab and get an item out of it and replace it. Like, it's just not possible the way that these things are sonically welded. Like, you would be able to tell instantly that the slab was tampered with. Like, it's not even an option. And to just kind of touch on the 2025 point, I think a lot of that had to do, in addition to feedback, also it gives them a chance to hire. Like, you have to announce this at some point, and this now gives you 6 months or however long. We don't even know that it's going to be the beginning of 2025. We don't know when in 2025, but that gives them time to put the word out. Like, hey, we are looking for more graders. We are looking for more people experienced in the comic book industry, versus them announcing this week and then saying, cool, drop your books off at San Diego Comic-Con. Like, I personally would want them to take their time and make sure that they get this right as much as possible, because I think we're all of the agreement. None of us may use PSA in the future. Like, we have no idea what this is all going to look like. We don't know what the resale value is going to look like. There's tons of unknowns, but just them existing and being competitive is a win, whether any of us ever crack or submit a book or whatever to them. Like, I think that's really the key of all this is what we've been wanting to have someone in the space to keep CGC honest at a minimum.
Yeah.
At a minimum, that is the win.
Yeah. Like, exactly. I totally agree. Even if PSA is still, number 2, hell, maybe they only become number 3, and CBCS is still in front of them for the next decade. Just them being around, being a player, makes the other 2 companies have to look over their shoulder. And that might be all you need for, all of us to be, reap the benefits, So I think that's, it's already a win. The fact that they have come out and decided to do this.
I agree that sentiment entirely. Just them coming out, creating competition in the market can do anything but good for everyone. And so I love being in the comments, and there's a lot of them, and I appreciate all you guys being here.
Yeah, shout out to chat.
Yeah, shout out to everybody. And I want to address a couple of things, and then I'm going to be a little less coy about something, but I'm going to speak for myself when I say it. But first, Jose here has asked something about the inner well. He says it appears that there's no inner well. Are the books going to be moving around while handling the shipping? Now, I don't want to say too much about the construction because I think it's still kind of an evolving process. But I thought it was interesting as well, the way that they encapsulate. There is something of an inner well, but it's not what we're used to. And I am very eager to encourage someone at PSA to test, to use me as a guinea pig in shipping. Like, it could be my own books, but let's ship these things, let's throw them around, let's see if there are any vulnerabilities in the slab. I'm very eager to get to that point and figure that out. That's incredibly important to all of us. And so as soon as I am able to do something like that, if it's not me or I hear about it, I'm going to report on it. So I'm not sure yet about that. But the other thing, someone was asking, and I don't just want to ignore it, but someone said, do you know who the head grader is? And I'm just going to be honest with you. I do, but I'm also going to be honest in the way that I cannot say that. It's not my thing to tell. There are other members of the community that are speaking to PSA regularly about this. There are things that are happening that I know nothing about. I just don't know. But if you're on YouTube and you're watching some YouTube videos, the math is very easy to do. And so it's not my story to tell, and they're going to announce that when they do. But I'm encouraged. I like the approach that they're taking and how serious they're taking expertise in hiring. But, I'm able to help where I can. And my greatest value add here is providing the feedback from my friends in the community, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Great points. Again, I'm going to not do the bit, even though I haven't been there. But yeah, seeing the case and holding it just to address a couple of things that you guys said, as far as the medical grade plastic or whatever, hypothetically to the touch, it was surprisingly heavy.
It was heavy,
shockingly heavy. Like, not like, and to be honest, to be fully transparent, in a way that feels, I don't mean to be harsh, but it feels wrong. Like, it's like, hey, that's not right. Like, it shouldn't be that heavy. And that could be a concern. I mean, it makes the product feel premium. It makes any dollar book feel like, wow. I mean, this is something that feels like a nice gift. Like, you really could give this as a nice gift to somebody. But in terms of it being like applicable to, the wide collector market, I mean, you got a couple of these in your backpack at a Comic-Con,
right?
I mean, people are going to be sweating. You better have a towel on your shoulder, that sort of thing. So there are interesting things I think that they still have to kind of determine and address with how they want to approach it. Yeah, the inner well felt, I don't have, what you were saying with the inner well. I didn't hypothetically see as close as Liu did with it, but I will say that it does feel like case rattle is not going to be a thing. with this
Right.
based on how it was constructed, which I think is really nice, actually. If you guys know, with CGC slabs, like case rattle is such a annoying thing. So that's good. And then, yeah, the head grader. Yeah, it's just, honestly, it's not our place to say. I know that that's a huge component and something that a lot of people are wondering about. And there's definitely going to be opinions out there, but yeah, it's just, everyone's going to find out soon. That's all. Everyone's going to find out soon. So, you know, we'll talk about it when we talk about it.
It's not me, you know.
It's not me too. Actually, I wish it was me. Everybody would get 11s. Everyone would get PSA 10s, which I feel like is the next point of the conversation, which is they went with the grading system of 9.8, 9.6, 9.4.
You're so disappointed by this.
This was something, I don't know how hotly debated it was at
feel
PSA, but I know the three of us had a lot of phone calls about this.
I debated it in some emails. I was very passionate about it, but you guys go. I'll jump in.
My idea was a personal attack on Manu. I said keep the traditional grading scale, but eliminate the 9.9. Like, don't have a 9.9, have a 10 and a 9.8, and like, what are we really doing with a 9.9 grade? Like, is there really that much significant difference between a 9.8 and a 9.9? And I guess if you ask CGC that question a year ago, they would say yes. If you ask them that today, it might be a different answer.
Right.
But that was my take on it. Is just go with a 10 and a 9.8 and run down the traditional scale. You know, Swags is on team 0.5 grades? Is that what your team you're on?
Yeah, I think if I was really pressed, I would have been 10, 9.5, 9, 8.5 type of scale.
I think the problem with that is that a bulk of books would fall into probably the 9.5 and not the 10. And then now all of a sudden people don't like the idea of their 9.8s getting bumped down to a 9.5. True.
Actually, I hedged myself. If I was really being honest, my first take was that I would just go, does PSA give 9.5s? They don't, right?
No, they don't.
No, but they do.
So they give, so here's the thing.
Below.
They give 8.5s.
So I actually
like 9.5s.
So I actually like that system.
They go from 9 to 10, and then every other grade below 9, they have a half grade.
So I would say just do that. I would say 10, 9, 8, 5, 8. Do they do 7.5s?
Yeah, it goes the whole way down.
I would do that exact system. Ooh. I know that's controversial, but I would do it. That's
so you would put a bulk of the books then probably as a 9?
Well, do the bulk of cards get 10s?
So are you, I guess, let me ask you this. Are you basically saying a CGC 9.8, a CGC 9, and a CGC 10 should just all be a 10 grade?
I'm saying, yeah, anything between a CGC 9.6 to a 10.0 should be a 10 grade. And anything 9.4 to a 9.0 would be a 9, essentially.
Spicy town.
Yeah, that's my take. And I realize it's controversial, and I've only thought it through to a certain level. I'm open to like totally changing my opinion or being convinced that that's a terrible idea. But my thought behind it is just that we already complain within the community, you know, like how many times do we all complain like, well, what's the difference of a 9.9 and a 9.8 and 9.6? Like, we're already up in arms about it. And
not me. I am not very much up in arms.
Okay. But then I'm saying, not you specifically, but let's say the larger audiences, right? And so I guess the question is this: is the company there to give you the exact specific grade that your collectible is, or are they there to give you, say, the general close proximity to what they think that the grade is?
See, this
if they're there
really
to give you the exact grade, then that opens up all of the can of worms that we've had with CGC all these years, because it just begs the question, like, well, you said it was a 9.8, and then I resent it in, and it came back a 9.6, but it's the same book, you know, all these things. So that opens up that can of worms. But if PSA were to just say, we're just going to give a PSA 10, and anything that's a 9.6 to a 10 is essentially a PSA 10, then it goes back to the collector of like, hey, generally speaking, this is a near mint plus book. And then it's up to you to decide if you think this is the best near mint plus book you've ever seen.
You really surprised me when you said that in the video. And I mean, I was enthralled, if that's the word. I was like, what did he just say? He wants it to be a general, and then we regrade it on our own before we sell it or purchase it. And in my head, instantly, I was like, That defies the purpose, Swag. What do you mean? But now you're articulating it again. And I see where you're coming from. But I think, I'm of the belief that it is their job. Yes, it led to trouble, but it is their job to give us a specific. That's why they exist, for it to be specific. If it was about a range, I mean, we could trust our LCS owner to give us a range. We don't need to ship it off for a range. So that's kind of where my head's at. But I do understand why you would bring it up.
Let me interject again. Guys, I'm not so gung-ho about this position. I'm willing to change my mind. But remember, back in the day, it was letter grades. So it was like near mint minus, near mint plus.
Right.
So it was kind of like, it's almost going back to that. Like we added an extra 0.2 within that system already to get even more hyper specific. And I'm just sort of saying, why don't we turn down the hot water a little bit on this and and go back to more of a letter grade system? Again, I don't know. But the only other thing I would say is this too. That's sort of me kind of intellectualizing it.
Right.
But if I'm just sort of thinking at it from a marketing standpoint, I mean, and saying, if PSA, you really want to challenge the market and you really want to play into collector psychology and bigger number equals better. I mean, if you just say, hey, ours is a PSA 10, you're going to get so many of those collectors that is like, well, 10 is better than 9.8. I'm going to get the 10.
And they have proven that, and you're totally right, because that is on brand for what they've done in the card space. Beckett has fallen behind, and Neo can speak to this at length, far more than I can, but it's quite easy to observe the idea that Beckett has fallen behind because they maintain their position of 9.5s and the 10 being unattainable. Where PSA read the tea leaves, people just like the bigger number. So give them the 10s, even if the cards may cross over as 9.5s with the competition, they're going to spend money to get the 10. It's a feel-good grade. Everyone that grades cards to any real extent knows that a PSA 10 encompasses a range of top of the scale sort of criteria. It is not going to always cross over as a 10 with the competition, a black label 10, or with anything like that. So they know that is the case. I am still happy that they did not translate that to comic books, but I'll talk more about that in a second.
Yeah, but Sean, it doesn't marry the letter grades.
What did they say? Sorry.
Well, because the letter grades were mint, right? Mint is the top, which is in theory a 10.0, and then it's near mint plus, which I guess is a 9.8. So we invented a 9.9, and then it goes near mint, which is 9.4. So we invented a 9.6, and then it goes near mint minus, which is a 9.2. So it doesn't perfectly marry the letter grade system. They added these other decimals within it already.
So you need the extra delineations because it means that they sell for more at all the auction houses and that they could charge more to grade the book when they upcharge.
Oh, right. Sorry, guys. You're right.
The auction houses need their bigger commission fee. The grading company needs to be able to charge more. The collector needs to be able to chase the 9.9 on the pre-screen. You need all those little things in there. Just real quick, because one second, Manu. I just want to knock out 16 chat questions at once. A lot of people are asking about are they going to grade centering? Are they going to do this? Are they going to use AI? I don't think any of us, and I don't know that they've even set full grading standards yet. So none of us know that stuff.
Oh, I've asked. I can share, what little I got in a response to my question about that. Well, actually, I guess it doesn't.
And I don't know that it's set. That's why I don't want to go down that path because they haven't even announced their head grader yet, so we don't really know.
Right.
They have not gotten into the details on or set. I don't believe they've set anything in stone on grading standards on what they're going to look at and what they're not going to look at, and it could change between now and when they go live. So I see a lot of that in chat, so I just kind of wanted to knock.
It could. And listen. At the end of the day, this choice is the much safer choice. Right when you're
people were fired up about the label. Imagine if they came out here with some crazy grading scale.
I realize I'm coming in guns a-blazing with Swaggle's grading company being we're gonna give 10 O's and 9. It's crazy. I understand it's crazy talk, and there's concern about how it would factor into the larger ecosystem. But which is nice. It's nice of them to think about the dealers and the collectors and all that sort of stuff. But I realize it complicates the issue, and yeah, it's probably something that was pretty much off the table always. But
perhaps off the table always. But I think we're coming from a place where I certainly am coming from a place where I just want them to offer something with the least resistance. This is already going to be met with hesitation from some people, and some people are just going to jump in because they're PSA loyalists and they're going to have fun with it. It's just going to be fun. But I definitely want them to take a path of the least resistance, so that they have a shot at winning over some customers. They're going to do great. I have a feeling. And the argument that I was making, which I'm not the only person, but it occurs to anyone that's thinking about this, is, well, if you did, because there was a moment of consideration about what the grade scale is supposed to be, right? And if you had gone with the 10, 9, 5, or the same as the card grade, is the decades of price history that we have, how do you correlate the two, right? Like, how would you charge someone for an ASM 300 9.5? Is that a 9.2, a 9.4? Is it a 9.6? What is it? And that would just make it, that would create more hesitation for dealers to get involved or for any resellers to get involved. And I want them to have no resistance. But I love what you're saying, though. If they wanted to be bold about it, if they really wanted to say, well, the hell with how you guys have been doing it. We're the future. This is how, that is very bold, right? It's a bit more of an uphill battle, but it is extremely bold. And bold could win in the long run. So it's fascinating.
So I have a general. So we've obviously been talking about, like the whole PSA versus CGC thing. I think initially what is this actually moving down the scale a little bit? Mm-hmm. What do you guys think this means for a PGX and a CBCS? Like, is this the nail in the coffin of CBCS if you want the clickbait? Like, obviously CGC is going to be CGC. I don't think any of us are sitting here thinking they're going to be toppled anytime soon. Like, we're not idiots. I mean, the comment section might think we are, but we're not, to a degree.
To a degree, yeah.
Speak for yourself, Rob.
Right. What do you talk about?
But I think there is an interesting angle. I mean, I don't even know how much PGX is really a serious competitor, but CBCS on paper technically is. I think this potentially could really hit them, because if the anti-CGC crowd now has another choice that is a much bigger, better company than what CBCS is, do those people leave CBCS and be like, I already don't like what CGC is doing, and now I have a new shiny toy over here? From a number 2 standpoint, how quickly do they jump to the number 2 section? Let alone, leave number 1 off the table.
Yeah. Well, let me answer by asking you a question back. Can you quickly explain for me and the other comic collector side of the hobby here that is in the chat, what happened to Beckett? As far as, like, they used to be the go-to, and then they weren't, and then PSA overtook them. And by the way, everyone, Beckett owns CBCS. Mm-hmm. And what is their brand now, even in the sports card world? Like, does Beckett have a fan base? Because really quickly, and then I'll let you run with this, I don't get the sense that CBCS actually has a loyal fan base, whereas CGC does and PSA does. But do they? And I guess, what's your thoughts on that?
So just to give a little history, Beckett and PSA basically were, without getting into the minutia, essentially equals for a long time. Beckett would get a little bit of a premium, like way back in the day. There was stories of people cracking out PSA 10s to chase Beckett 9.5s. And Beckett has subgrades. That is one thing that is different on the card side of things. It's just not a flat grade. There's subgrades involved. And they basically traded back and forth. And then the pandemic happened. People flocked to 10s. I think a lot of it was a ton of new people came into the space. And they're like, well, wait, 10's more than 9.5. I can't tell you how many times in videos I had to break down, like, guys, a BGS 9.5 and a PSA 10 are both gem mint grades, even though one's a 9.5 and one's a 10. Beckett just had a very complex grading scale for someone new coming into the space. So PSA began to pull away. The other thing that happened, just like on the comic book side, a lot of the card grading companies got super backed up. PSA did better at pivoting out of that because they're just a bigger company with a lot more money, frankly. And they powered through that, and they kind of just almost won by attrition, just by throwing the most slabs onto the market getting the most comps, getting the most brand recognition. And then that gap has just continued to widen. Now, in the sports card space, we actually have like 4 legitimate grading companies. PSA is a mile above everybody else. Beckett, SGC, and CGC for cards, whether it's TCG or sports. So we actually have a lot of options, even though they are a distant second, third, and fourth to PSA, but they still exist, and a lot of people still do use them. But then just as time goes on, PSA just has continued to pull away in comps. And to answer your Beckett brand question, it has definitely slipped. Now they have their loyalists. A lot of people, a lot of old schoolers that grew up and collected in the 90s, a lot of high-end Jordan and LeBron stuff from that 90s, early 2000 era lives in Beckett slabs. And they have a very loyal but shrinking fan base. And financially, the company's just not in a great spot. The person that owns them has tons of legal trouble, and this is the entire, the Beckett's made up of a group of a bunch of different sub companies, and that's part of the reason why everyone, when all the CGC nonsense was going on, everyone's like, "Where's CBCS in this? How come they're not doing this? How come they're not doing that?" It's because they can't. They're not a nimble enough of a company. They don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to grasp on these opportunities when they arise. And that's why you've seen CBCS basically do nothing in the space. I mean, what's the only thing they've done? Switch a label in a case? They didn't even market when all that CGC nonsense was going on. Like we were, we would see in the comments of our videos, people begging like, what is CBCS doing? Why aren't they jumping on this? And it's because they couldn't. Like they just aren't capable of doing that stuff. They're not capable of scaling. Like they have customer service problems, turnaround time problems, all that stuff. Like if everyone switched to CBCS, if 10% of people switched to CBCS tomorrow, they would drown.
Right. That makes sense to me. I mean, I guess my feeling is, and shout out to CBCS fans in the chat. I mean, I got nothing against them. I'm just speaking from like what just sort of what feels like it feels like CBCS doesn't have as big of a loyal following. Surely they do. Obviously, they're a profitable company. But I guess going back to my suspicion with your question, Rob, was, is this the death knell for them? Well, I don't think it's great news for them. I think the JSA thing was already not great news for them. Yeah. But, PGX is still around, and they've been, quote unquote, dead for a long time, but they're still running. So I don't think that CBCS is going to go out of business all of a sudden. But
PGX is someone's hobby. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. But I'll just say that it does feel like, and maybe this can, go into like some of the other parts of the conversation we got to talk about, which is like PSA can be successful, or PSA, it seems like they're going to jump into the number 2 spot assuming they don't have a tremendous amount of hiccups, which of course they definitely could. But that doesn't
be my question. Do you think PSA like immediately becomes the number 2 within a year of entering the market, if not less?
I think that, it's a big, this is a big undertaking, right? Even like PSA has incredible infrastructure in place, and they definitely are equipped to be successful. But
well said.
It's a big process too, right? Like, it's a huge undertaking like that they have to do. And they from my perspective, I think that they have everything that they need to be successful, but it's going to be a long time. They need a lot of, they have a lot to do is my feeling.
Manu's in first grade again.
Yes. I just want to get this out. I think as long as they show us with sincerity that they truly care about our opinion and how we feel about their product, we will have enough confidence in them to see them through the hiccups, the inevitable hiccups in the rollout. There's no way this hits the ground and it's the final iteration of their process, of their product, or anything like that. But as long as we know that we can communicate with them and they're listening to us and they're willing to walk some things back, change some things, whatever it is, to satisfy us, we are going to continue using them and help them into that, into that place where they actually have a substantial hold on the market. If we feel like you know, I maybe I'm a fool, but I really truly feel like it is in everyone's best interest for them to have a decent level of success here. Why? Because whether you're a CGC fan or a hopeful PSA fan, them putting the pressure on CGC forces CGC to offer us something better to earn our business. Regardless, having me being encouraging of I want to encourage all of us to support them without, you know, being fools, because it's just better for us overall. So yes, there's going to be hiccups. No, they're not going to hit the ground and instantaneously just win. You know, this is, like you said, it's going to be a long process, but if they show us they care enough to make the right decisions for us, I think we're going to see to it that they end up being at least number 2. And over the course of time, the way that things change between Beckett and PSA, who knows what happens? CGC has one hell of a head start, of course.
Yeah.
But I definitely can see PSA, as long as they deliver on what we need, having a huge chunk. And, you know, I don't want to segue completely, but there was a conversation that you and I had, Swag, where you recently saw a card sale, and the card sale was for an enormous amount of money, and you made a comment. You were like, man, there's a lot of, you know, activity in the card world. Like, there's a lot of people that buy and sell cards for high dollars. And someone in the comment section of my post the other day said, nobody in the comic world is going to grade with PSA, only card guys will. And I didn't make the snarky comment back. I made a very, you know, polite comment back, and we can pull it up in a moment. It's a fun one. Chloe's Comic Swag was part of that exchange as well. He knows it was a fun one. But in my head, I was thinking, Guy, what you just said proves our point. Because if the sports card guys, just for fun, decide to grade a couple comic books now, that's enough. That's enough. Oh, yeah. And you know what else that means? That means PSA is going to introduce comic book grading to an entirely new segment. And if they disappoint that segment, if they let that segment down, you know what they've done? They've created new customers for CGC. They don't want that. Once they create that new customer, they're going to want to keep that customer, or else they're just going to make CGC stronger, because they're going to give someone a taste of grading comic books and then have them go somewhere else. PSA's got a lot on the line here, and they want to make sure they do right by us. I'm an optimistic fool, I know that, but I've seen us move the needle before, and I think we could do that again here. So I just wanted to get that out real quick.
So to kind of that point, I think when you're talking about sports people grading comics, I think sideways to that. I think where PSA could dominate the market is magazines.
Yeah.
I think that is a massive area that they could go after. Like, CGC does it,
yeah,
but I don't know that it gets the love that it could. Whereas all of a sudden now you're talking about people that grade sports cards. What's the natural thing to send into that? And this is, you know, some of the stuff sells for quite a bit of money. Like, Sports Illustrated is a massive thing that people grade.
Yes.
Slam magazines, Rolling Stone. Like all the music stuff, all the pop culture stuff. I mean, PSA has their own magazine for Collector Club members. They put out limited numbered versions of that magazine that certain people get every month randomly. Those sell for sometimes hundreds, if not $1,000.
And they're currently graded by CGC.
Yeah.
They are currently graded by CGC, the PSA magazines.
I think that is a market that they could chew into CGC's market share much faster. Because if you're grading, if you're a sports adjacent person and you want to grade LeBron's first Sports Illustrated cover, where does that make more sense to go? Do you want that in a CGC slab, or do you want that in a PSA slab to put next to your LeBron rookie that is also in a PSA slab?
Yeah.
So I think that is an angle that they could potentially make a lot of waves in, is on the magazine side of things.
I think you're absolutely right. And I saw that enthusiasm. Like, as soon as the news came out, I even saw that video that Jeff did. You know, Jeff first made a post on Sports Card Investor, then followed up with a reel on his personal page, which is also, you know, just an extension of his business. And he made a reel. He showed a bunch of his, favorite magazines, I believe currently just authenticated in slabs or something, maybe not graded. He showed a bunch of magazines. I don't remember what state they were in, but he was very excited to get those paired up with the PSA label because of that lineage, because of the correlation to sports. Like, without a doubt, I think you're right, Rob. That is something that the sports card guys, I think you're right. There's gonna be very little resistance for them to submit there.
Yeah,
and that's also an area that I don't think CGC attacks well. You know, they've recently upgraded their magazine case. What, about a year or so ago, I think it was.
I think within the last year it got better.
Yo,
Yeah.
I have to take a moment. Don't even worry. That's a good friend of ours. I don't know if I'm supposed to say who he previously went by because he just had a brand change, but he's a good friend of the community. I love his comments. So shout out, man. I love the brand change. You'll have to explain that to me later. I'm curious. And he said, I've never graded a comic book myself, and I'm definitely sending some to PSA. And he's not making that sentiment up, and other people share that same sentiment. And I know he's telling the truth. And he says, Marvel and DC card collectors will give it a shot. Dude, there is a built-in barrage of books that are just going to go as soon as they say send them. It's just going to happen.
100%. I think, well, yeah, what Don't Even Worry said and what you guys have already been saying, I'll just reiterate. I do think that there is a large market of people that are collectible adjacent that, you know, we kind of think that our community, everyone is in sort of the know, but there's a lot of these people that like, yeah, they use PSA. They're in the sports card world. They never sent in a comic book for grading ever, but they'll do it with PSA. And I think that audience is enough to where even if PSA doesn't gain any market share from CGC or CBCS, I think within their own fan base, because the sports card world is so huge. I mean, I'll be dramatic. I think it's probably like 10x the size of the comic collecting world. Even I think that already that'll probably be financially successful for them, just to sell to their own, you know, users already. You know, just this division will be successful just already, you know, having PSA people submit.
So to that point, Swaggle, so roughly CGC grades, or I should say grades, they add about 100,000-ish comics to their census every month. Like give or take. It's like 100 to 115 to 120. I've been tracking it for about the last 6 or 7 months, but it pretty much sits right around that 100-ish K number. PSA grades about 1.2 to 1.4 million cards a month.
It's crazy. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, and also like CGC, and this is kind of what the next direction I kind of want to take this conversation. CGC has a Florida office. PSA has a California office. They have a New Jersey office. They have a Tokyo office.
Right.
And I don't know that they're going to grade out of all of those locations, but the one thing that PSA has that even CGC doesn't to a degree, they have a lot of integration with other companies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, PSA has established relationships with the auction houses already. Like that's an angle of this. Like, is Heritage going to take PSA seriously? Yes, they probably are because it's PSA. Yeah. You know, are the other auction houses going to look at PSA and take them seriously? Yes, because you know they're a dominant force in the card industry in the autograph authentication space, which is another angle of this. Like PSA's autograph, like CGC just added JSA for autograph authentication, but that's something that PSA has been doing for decades already. To me, and this is something me and Swaggle have talked about, the real interesting stuff, and I don't know that they're going to do this. They have not said that they're going to do this, but I have to imagine that they will. PSA has a vault and direct integration with eBay.
Yeah. Oh wait, so, can we just hold on that, because I just want to show one thing before we go into this.
Yeah.
Just to make everyone in the chat depressed. All right, here we are. Google Trends. I just typed in comic books. Okay, USA Google Trends comic books past 5 years. I just want to put it into perspective. Let's type sports cards. Look at that. It's
switched to the beginning of the pandemic.
Just sports cards alone is bigger than all of the umbrella term of comic books. Comic books, and it's like how many within the comic books is actually like comic book collecting? Probably not that much.
Add another one that says Pokemon cards.
Oh gosh, let's see it. Let's see it. Let's see it.
Oh my God.
There it is, guys.
There it is, guys. We picked the wrong lane. We should have been Pokemon card content creators.
Mickey, you might remember when the bit is over, right? Is it? I don't know, but I'm just gonna
the bit's so okay. The bit's still going on, but it's over. Okay.
Yeah, no. But when that was when I was informed that TCG, Pokemon specifically, Pokemon is more of what they receive out of the 50,000 cards a day that they receive. By the way, we walked by the 50,000 of that day.
So that's what they get in the grade. That's double, or that's half of what CGC grades in a month in comics.
Right? and it's incredible, and their operation is incredible. I don't, one day we'll explore what it was like being there, but for me, it was like Disneyland. It was absolutely incredible. And so I was blown away to find out that Pokemon is more than the sports card traffic. It is literally overtaken the business of grading.
It's so massive.
Wow, bro.
It is so massive. Logan Paul put it on the map.
He did it, right? Without him, it would have been nothing, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we could do, everyone's saying like, add these things. I mean, I've done this before. I thought about doing videos about this type of stuff, but yeah, you can put it into perspective. But Pokemon beats everything. Pokemon is the biggest. But anyways, let's go back to what you were saying, Rob, with the eBay vault thing, because I think that's a super important point of why this could be huge in terms of the downstream effects to comic books with PSA.
And this is new. Like they just, they basically, so essentially what happened about 3 months ago, Collectors Universe, PSA had golden auctions under them. It wasn't working out. eBay had a vault. They had an eBay vault. It wasn't really working out. PSA basically traded, or Collectors Universe basically traded golden auctions for eBay's vault. They swapped spots. Golden went to eBay. The eBay vault went to PSA. PSA controls the vault. What that has allowed, and they're just beginning to roll this out now, is when I send cards into grade, I can submit the cards, grade them, and I don't have to have them shipped back to me if I want to sell them. As soon as they finish, as soon as the grades pop, within 24 hours, you could send them straight to eBay to sell without having to ship them back to you.
Right.
And then they sell, PSA ships them, deals with all that, and then you get your payment at the end of the month or however you want to get paid out. Going forward, what they have talked about, and once again, this is a little hypothetical because I'm making assumptions that this is going to roll out the comics at some point in time as well, is the rumor basically is I could go on the eBay, buy a raw card, have it shipped straight to PSA, have PSA grade it, and then immediately put it on eBay, and the card never touched my hands. So there's a couple different aspects of this. One is the implications of vaulting comics, and like, say you send a bunch of cards or a bunch of books off to CGC that you're planning on selling. And imagine you just ship them there and you don't have to touch them again. Like that alone, like shipping comic books is a pain in the butt, like especially graded books. Imagine just not having to deal with it. You take your 20, and the other thing too is you don't have to, it's not all or nothing. You could cherry pick. So if you send 20 items in, you could send 15 to the vault to immediately list on eBay and send 5 back home to you that you want. Yeah. This is the one thing that PSA probably does better than anybody else, is their integrations with other companies.
Yeah. And so to your point, like you get the Captain America trailer come out, the Red Hulk comic becomes ridiculous. It's super hot. You're the first person on eBay, you buy it now. With one hit of the button, you get it graded by PSA, it goes to the vault, and then it gets relisted without you ever having to touch the book. And now you have a PSA 9.8 of your Hulk 1 ready to sell. Still within the hotness of the trailer window.
Yeah. And if I'm a CGC person, I go onto eBay and buy it. It has to ship to me. I get it in my hands. Then I ship it to CGC. CGC gets it, grades it, ships it back to me. And now I post it on eBay. So even if maybe my version of that book sells for $100 in a 9.8 versus the PSA version that sells in a 9.8 for maybe 70, but you can get that PSA book onto market faster, sometimes that makes a big difference on this stuff.
I am, and 100%. I am gonna. Evan just said something, and my head works this way too. And I try to be positive, but I have this pessimistic side, and this is why I feel like the vaulting thing. I mean, listen, it's going to be a big hit. It doesn't matter if I use it or not. I know people love it. People are going to enjoy it. It feels too impersonal to me. Evan said, that sounds terrible. Could be damaged comics being sold over and over, all while sitting in a vault without the community ever seeing it. That is so true. Well,
they'd be great. I mean, they're only graded books, so it's not like you're having raw books sitting there. And you have high risk.
They could be damaged in the case.
The graded books take
I get
in the case, often enough. But again, that's going to be a very small portion of what happens. But I, like Evan, can't escape the idea that it is a possibility, and I need to see my thing.
Oh, it's,
But I mean, you don't have to keep them in the
100% is,
vault.
yeah, 100%.
Right,
It's
right.
it's kind of depressing to be like, oh, I guess that's what's going to happen. But we're just talking about it in the sense that people are going to do it. Like,
Of
it's not
course,
something
man.
that I care about, But I'm just saying, like, this is going to be a feature of the system, and you show me the incentive, I'll show you the result. Like, this is going to be a thing. Like,
Let the day trading begin. They're basically
yeah,
NFTs
exactly.
now. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even necessarily the day trading. It's just it doesn't have to be the hot spec book, and it could be books you're submitting yourself. Remove the direct to purchasing raw to send to eBay. Let's just pretend you have your 20 books sitting there that you're planning. Maybe Swags, you just did an LCS haul video just the other day where you got like 10 books or whatever. Are you planning on keeping all those? Are you going to grade some and sell some, or
Yeah, I might sell a couple. I'll probably
Okay.
keep some.
So let's say you wanted to get, let's say you send, let's pretend there's 10. You send them off to PSA to get graded. The grades pop, and then maybe you're like, oh wow, that graded way higher than I thought. I'm going to sell this one. You cherry pick those 3, send them off to eBay to do their thing, and send the other 7 home. And now those 3 are out of your hand. You don't have to mess with it anymore. Like that, the convenience of that alone. You don't have to run to the post office. You don't have to bubble wrap it. You don't have to put pool noodles on it. You don't have to insure it. You don't have to deal with all that nonsense that goes with it for books that you were planning on selling anyway.
No, there's big benefit there. There's going to be a few people that just don't, but we're going to be the minority. There's big benefit there. It's a huge selling point for the activity of collecting, grading, selling, trading, and all of that.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Well, I had your post pulled up.
Yeah, I want to.
Were there certain? Yeah, we thought it'd be interesting to go through. I don't know if you got any interesting comments on your video, Rob. If any that come to mind.
I'll look while you guys are working through this real quick.
Yeah, I do. Did you have one here that you wanted to highlight?
There's one pinned at the top. I think it's the second one pinned at the top, and there's some interesting things to pull from that, and I could tie that into some of the other comments. I still have to go through all of these because I want to see all of them and respond to all of them. So I still have to do that. But this one pinned at the top, you'll see a comment from Chloe's Comic Swag, I believe it is. Is it not pinned at the top?
Oh, yeah, here. I don't see it as pinned on my end, but here's Chloe's comment. Shout out to Chloe.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Chloe. He's with us tonight as well. And actually, I'll just pull it up on my phone so that I can get to the thing that I wanted to speak to really quickly. And, a little bit I've already, but I'm going to get a little further into this. So, Chloe says, I love it. Top tier competition gets you CGC from being complacent. This is very true. CGC needs a swift kick in the ass, and PSA is here for it. I love that. Like that enthusiasm. Yeah, it's a little, we're making fun of CGC a little bit, but it's all for the greater good. And a lot of people were agreeing. And then we had another gentleman hop into here, and he says, and there are a couple of people in this comment section that says, I'm all for it too. And my page or my collection screams CGC fanboy. These are people that love CGC, have all CGC collection, and they're open to this. They're like, you know what? Bring it on. If they're going to do right by us, we're going to spend some money there. So this other gentleman says, LOL, PSA's too late to the party. Collectors that collected CGCs for the last 24 years are not going to jump to PSA. Better get Steve Borock, or they will just be a card company that grades comics. First of all, shout out Steve. Big respect and big love for Steve. This same gentleman that left this comment about collectors that have been collecting CGCs for 24 years also, and I appreciate all of his comments. We've had very respectful dialogue. He left another comment on this post that said collectors that have 2,000 CGCs aren't going to convert. Man, I'll tell you, collectors that have 2,000 graded books and have been loyal to CGC for 24 years are the minority. I don't think anyone's concerned if a 2,000 book collector is going to convert. Let them stay with CGC. I know very few people that have anywhere near that many books or that kind of history with CGC. A lot more people are new to this. I'm talking about 5 years new to this. They don't have decades and decades of loyalty here. And so then I love how Chloe responded. He said, you're never too late to the party. Chloe's Comic Swag, he said, Harvey, he said, you're never too late to the party. It's how you show up to the party. The host of the party is looking tired, making mistakes, and the new girl just walked in. Just sit back and let it unfold, because that's where we'll get the real answer. She's saying, man, just wait. And so the other gentleman comes back in and he says, not PSA. All the card guys will use them and their PSA account with their PSA account when they get comics, nobody else. I responded, same time next year, let's talk again. Like, if you think no one's going to use them, you might be right, but let's give this a year. Let's talk again. And I said, in the meantime, let's encourage competition. It's good for everyone. And I know you know that. I thought this exchange, which there's several like this on this post, sums up a lot of the sentiment here. You know, there are people that are saying, no, this is never going to work. But most people are willing to give it a shot. And then there are hundreds of comments about the label, of course. And I don't know how to satisfy everybody about that.
Yeah. I want to weigh in on that as far as like the ingrained audience to CGC.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement that this overnight, like, it's not like everyone is going to immediately switch over to PSA. And like I don't have a horse in the race with this. Like, I just want the best products, essentially.
Right.
So however the chips fall is fine with me either way. You know, I want CGC to get better. I want PSA to do well. But I definitely think that the only thing that really matters at the end of the day, in terms of who is going to be number one, is, and some people have already said this in the chat, is what the books sell for on the secondary market.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, people are going to submit to the company that yields them the most value. You know, that's kind of how people operate. I mean, it just makes sense, right? So the big question is, can PSA actually compete in that world? And it's going to be difficult for them, to be honest. It's going to be really, really difficult. And I'll just bring up this post that I think kind of puts it in perspective. This is Heritage Comic Grader, which is like the grader over at Heritage. And he just showed this picture of a bunch of ASM 129s, you know, and in his post, he says, when you pick up the phone and still can't believe what you hear, this is the result. 27 copies of ASM 129. These will most likely all be going to CGC and then sounding the next 6 months of a year being auctioned. So this is Heritage Auctions.
Right.
They get a submission or they buy a collection or get a consignment or whatever it is. And he's saying it right there. I mean, these are going to CGC.
Right.
He's not saying these are going to CBCS. He's not saying these are going to PGX. You know, and when PSA is around, he's not saying that these are going to PSA. Like, Heritage is going to send it there, and Heritage is going to funnel their books to CGC, and therefore, you know, Heritage, when they go to sell and set records and all this stuff, like, the machine perpetuates CGC as being the go-to premium company that, you know, gets the most value. So I don't know how PSA breaks that cycle. I mean, the one thing that PSA has is that if Heritage gets a alpha, you know, Black Lotus card, you know, for Magic the Gathering, or they get like a, you know, a Charizard Pokemon, and, you know, they want to sell this stuff, like, they'll use PSA. So maybe there's people in the building that have those connections to PSA, but as far as comics are concerned, I mean, it's tough, you know, so that's going to be a tough one.
That is absolutely going to be a tough one. There's something that absolutely needs to happen, and I think it will happen, and it was suggested that it could happen in a conversation. And here's the scenario. PSA has just as great a relationship with these auction houses as CGC, just in the space of cards, right? All of the highest selling cards. Actually, Beckett has some huge. SGC and Beckett both have huge sales in cards, but PSA has a lot of respect. CGC is obviously the leader on the comic side. There's not even a competitor there. But the point is, PSA has hugely wealthy collectors that grade their sports cards, vintage cards, TCG with PSA. All they need is a few of those, and they've got dozens of them, a few of those collectors that want to dive into books, and they've got a great relationship, and say, you know what? I'll have a book that's worth a couple $100,000 because that's the sort of collector I am. I'll insist that it's graded with you, and I'll send it to Heritage. What, is Heritage not going to sell my book? Of course they will. And certain books are going to get what they're going to get no matter what. You know, it doesn't matter what they're encapsulated. You send even a detective. What is it again? Dang it, the Tech 27. I want to be the guy that says it right. The Tech 27, even though in a CGC slab, it sold for 50% of its previous sale. The point is, it's expensive no matter what. that could have gone in a CBCS slab, that could have gone in a PSA slab. It's still going to do what the market's going to do for a Tech 27. Now, in a PGX slab, maybe not, because who knows what you're actually buying. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. But you know what I'm saying? Like, one of their big time collectors, or a handful, to dive in just for the sake of doing it for PSA. I think they've got those relationships. I think a big book will show up at a big auction house and a big number will be attached, and poof, headlines. And that's what it takes.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that they should do this, and I'm not saying that this is the right thing to do. But if I was PSA, I mean, and I had clients that wanted to send their Tech 27, to my company, and they were going to auction on Heritage, I would definitely be, under the not Swagglehaus at Heritage Auctions account, shield bidding that and making sure that it hits the floor value. Like, I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, like,
man,
what they have to do to protect the floor value of their books is going to be an important component into the perception of the collectors and the people. I do agree with you that I think that there are people that are going to be loyal to PSA and send their books into PSA. But yeah, man, I mean,
if I could go to PSA and hand them my book and make sure it's not damaged in shipping and make sure they encapsulate it and make sure it gets to auction, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? If it's a book that's if I'm a multimillionaire, sure I will. There's something that I want to talk to really quickly, because this has come up a lot and it's been a little confusing for me to, understand. Well, not very confusing, but people keep asking, rightfully so. I'm not making fun of the question, but I want to just provide some clarity. They keep saying, is PSA going to upcharge for high value books the way they do for cards? And the way the question is posed is as if CGC doesn't already upcharge. And my response multiple times in the past 2 days has been, CGC upcharges as well. I get the upcharges all the time, right? At a certain price point, CGC charges 4% of the value of the book. And now they've lifted the cap. It used to be capped at a certain number of dollars, and now it's not. You are getting charged 4% of what they value the book graded to be. And that's the way, from my understanding, PSA works with sports cards. But then somebody says PSA just arbitrarily puts values on cards. And I don't know. Is that, Rob, can you speak to that? Isn't the upcharge system the same at both of these grading companies?
The specifics are a little bit different, but generally speaking, yes. The price of what it costs to grade varies depending on the value of the book.
Right.
Or
that's
the value of
nothing
the
new.
item, I guess I'll say in this case. So
right.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
Down at the bottom there, Nintendo 77 says PSA owns the eBay vault. eBay still has the most eyes in the world. And I think that is one aspect of this. Like you guys were talking about the high end. I think the opposite side is what's more important, to set the records, or would they be better off to try to own I don't want to say the low end, but like attack that modern to ultra modern market with, hey, it's going to be, and I don't remember my CGC pricing off the top of my head, but let's say it's 30% less to grade a book, a brand new pick your variant cover of Spider-Gwen or whatever. It's going to be 30% cheaper to grade that at PSA. Are they better off to go after that market and get that stuff out there circulating, and people, the common folk, seeing, this new Spider-Man whatever variant version sells for $200 in a PSA 9.8, and it goes for $250 in a CGC 9.8, but it's a little bit cheaper to grade with PSA, and maybe I get my books back faster, or maybe I do the eBay vault thing or something like that. I think that's more realistic than, two AF-15 selling for the same, at least out of the gate.
Yeah. Sure. Who knows what the right strategy would be? I would say that it's probably more realistic for them to capture a modern market out of the gate. It's going to be difficult to convert, that dealer who's been dealing for 20, 30 years and is used to sending to CGC and has the relationships over there. Like, it's going to be tough for them to all of a sudden start sending their, Action Comics 1 to PSA. But who knows? I mean, what do you think, Manu?
I want them to do both. I want them to go after the big clients and encourage them to slab $1 million book and get some headlines with it. That's certainly what I would be doing if I was actually, not, I mean, employed by PSA or something, poor choice of words, but you know what I mean? Like if I actually had like a financial interest in the situation, I would be pursuing that, and I would be pursuing the other market as well. I don't necessarily look at it as one or the other. I would be aggressively attempting to do both, because I think they have the manpower and the resources to do both. I mean, getting the high end and getting headlines is just a matter of hitting the phones, and then getting everything else is kind of a matter of like, I don't know, I haven't thought this through, but maybe, submission incentives, so on and so forth. The price is going to be obviously very important. Like if you're slabbing a book worth $100, well, the difference between $60 to slab it and $30 to slab it is your profit margin, right? So those things will make the difference in regards to that. But the high end market is just relationships. That's all that is. So do both is what I would try.
Yeah.
Chat's asking this, and I think I know the answer to this. Maybe, I'm sure, Manu, this is a question that you asked. People are asking about census. I believe when I asked this, the vibe that I got is they are going to track newsstands from the get. They are going to track Mark Jewelers from the get. Like, they're basically starting at scratch, so you could kind of have the census that you would probably wish CGC would have with, my criticism of newsstands has always been, if it's that big of a deal, why doesn't CGC track it separately? That horse is out of the barn. It's too far gone. But if you're starting from scratch, I believe, and like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone remembers this, that stuff is going to be tracked separately. Like you are going to know exactly how many newsstand books are on their census compared to non-newsstand books for like an ASM 300, for example.
Yeah. That's something that, like, man, I hope they're very diligent about all this stuff. We talk about like just from the get. I mean, they need to get someone in there who knows every single variant, every price variant, every, error that there is, to make sure that they start breaking that out on their census. And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, one of the things when I had Matt Nelson on my channel that he actually talked about, where I was asking him questions about the census, is he actually brought up, without actually naming CBCS, is that he actually felt that one of his issues with the census was that it just wasn't all under CGC's wing. And extending an olive branch to what he meant by that, I think like he's basically saying, like, it's too bad that the census isn't in one place that has every book, so that you can have the full scale of what, how many are actually out there. And as PSA starts to grade, other books, and if people do in fact send vintage books to them, and then they start to build out their pop counts, and then you have like I don't know, your Malibu Spawn variants, Manu, like if all of a sudden, you get a couple over there being sent, error variants being sent into PSA, and then it's like, how many are actually out there? And, it's like that's, I hope that they can be very diligent at the beginning and really start to break this stuff out. And hopefully, we can figure out a way where we combine these senses if they really do start to explode.
The combined senses, I've seen that come up. I never even thought about that. That's very interesting. I do see that Dennis is with us, because you put his chats up a few times, but I don't see him. So I'm sorry, because, I would love to engage with him.
Shout out to Dennis. He says that we don't know anything, but I don't know. Dennis, come on, man. Come on, Dennis, man.
What I want, we've got our dynamics sorted out by now. We are good friends, and
Dennis is a good dude. Now. Shout out to Dennis.
So what I want to say about the census is, obviously it's up to them to do the things that we really, really hope and insist that they do. But it was definitely told to us that they are, from the very beginning, going to separate newsstand, which is the right thing to do. It's a frustration we have with the current system. Newsstands matter to a lot of us. We would love to know historically, not just going from this point forward, because some books they have broken out, some books they don't break out, and starting to break them out now is really just nonsense, because we don't know how many ASM 300s have been graded as newsstands previously. But PSA has the opportunity to do that from the beginning. And I did, and I'm not the only person, but in my personal communications, I suggested how important it is that the niche items be separated. It's no different to do so. It doesn't take up any more bandwidth in your system. Separate the niche items, Mark Jewelers, double covers, all of these things that we sort of have to kind of make up how many might there be, and hope we're not lying to people, because we don't actually know. Separate them. Mark Jewelers, double covers, error variants, separate everything. There's no reason not to, and that will give them a huge leg up. And I think they're taking that seriously. And so I look forward to that. And the combined census thing, I had actually never thought about that. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, how does that, like, you would go to one company's census or population and they would aggregate the other companies as well for a matter of comparison? Like, as a business, I would feel like I'm promoting another brand. I wouldn't
Yeah,
want
well,
to be,
shout out to Brian McClay at Beyond Wednesday. Brian,
Yeah.
like, you know, he talked about this a little bit, where it's like maybe you need another party to be sort of the go-to. Imagine if Cover Price or Go Collect were the ones that were like, well, here's the census because we pull from everything.
So
Yes.
on the sports card side, we have GemRate, which is a individual / company that they're the one that you've probably seen their posts on Instagram. They're the one that tracks the monthly numbers. If you pull up Instagram, you could see it, Swag. If you want to show the screen, just search for GemRate. He does monthly, daily posts. He does all sorts of census breakdowns or population reports on the sports card side of all the 4 major grading companies. Like, we know exactly what every company's doing. We know by sport, by decade, by year. Like, we actually, because of him, and I'm pretty good friends with him, we have a ton of data on actually what's being graded. So what you have here, this is the first half of 2024. Just as an example. So
yeah, okay.
What he's actually working on now and is in beta that works pretty well already is a universal pop report. He is pooling all his data together, and you can actually go to the GemRate website and you could type in 1952 Mickey Mantle, and it'll pull up what every single grader has and shows you the breakdowns of everything. Just go to GemRate. I think it's just GemRate. Oh yeah, there you go. So universal search right there. Go, click there. Type in 2018 Lucas Silver Prism.
2018.
Yeah.
Luca.
Yeah, K, not a C.
Why is this? Any of these?
It's that one right there. So that's what the universal pop report looks like for sports cards.
Gotcha. So yeah, this is super helpful, right? So like,
there you go. Okay.
We need someone like a GemRate who can be the person.
I've been in his ear that the comic book industry desperately needs his services.
Yeah. Well, shout out to GemRate. Go give GemRate his Instagram a follow, everybody, and tell him to get on this, for us.
I mean, the fact that he tracks the numbers has done, like, it really allows a lot of transparency. And it's funny, the grading companies are they like it, but they don't like it at the same time, because it is showing us exactly like, oh, look, you'll see like a company runs a special on Pokemon cards, and you could literally see how much of a bump they get from running a special in a certain category when he tracks those month-to-month numbers on stuff.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Somebody asked, how many other people has PSA reached out to? And I mean, I just know that they have, but I don't know who. And I never,
I have no idea.
Yeah, I never felt compelled to be like, who else are you talking to? I was just really happy that I was in the conversation, to be honest. And I'm happy.
Hypothetically, I was also in the conversation.
Hypothetically, of course, right? And so, but there are absolutely other individuals that they've been speaking to. Other people have whispered and so on and so forth. And they'll probably be telling their stories and their level of involvement. And I hope that I maintain some involvement. I think this is amazing. And anyway, just wanted to address that really quickly.
Just for Dennis, this pod is like caramel peanut butter cup, and that's a good thing, but you lack humility of your love of PSA cards and CGC comic grading to see the bigger picture. Dennis, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I talk about it based on what I believe the majority of the community feels. I don't have a horse in this race. I don't have anything against CBCS, or I'm not like, like just totally blindly in love with CGC. I mean, I just am speaking about it as more matter of fact.
I don't even understand what he's saying. I lost me. It's so poetic.
I think he's implying that we're too biased towards PSA CGC. Maybe that's what
towards graded stuff.
Towards them as being the go-to premier companies. Is that right, Dennis? Did I mischaracterize you?
But they are the go-to.
I mean, they are.
I mean, they are. And so, I don't mean it as like they are the best, therefore we should not entertain the other companies. I'm just kind of saying it matter of fact. Yeah. So that's what.
Yeah, Dennis, listen, I want to hear whatever you got to throw at me. I just got to understand it. I didn't. Yeah, it was beautifully put, and I got just lost in it. So hit me with it again, and I'll let you know if I feel offended or not. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, I think we understood. Yeah.
Okay. And it's nice to be invited in. Did they pay you for your time? No. This is something that I am personally interested in this. Like, this is what I do with my time. These are choices that I've made. I am going to make, well, I can't speak to what happens in the future, but I love the fact that I can remain independently critical, excited because I'm excited, optimistic because I'm optimistic, disappointed if I'm disappointed, and tell the truth about how I feel. And I like to move completely independently. And so it's a choice that I've made to be involved, but definitely a cool question.
Yeah.
Does PSA offer pre-screening for $9.98? Are they?
I don't think we don't really know that yet.
Yeah,
someone did ask earlier if they were going to offer pressing, and that is yes, which that has been a interesting conversation in the sports side of things, because there was a big topic on card cleaning over basically the last year, really on and off again, and the card world and the comic world could not be more different when it comes to card cleaning. Cards, people want it unmolested. They want it pure. Whereas comic books allow a lot more when it comes to that. So the PSA recently took a very hardline stance of anti-card cleaning, and some people that are very pro-card cleaning have found some humor this week in the fact that they're like, well, yeah, you can clean and press your comic books.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they just CGC just accepts everything, or like has over time just accepted everything that they couldn't essentially catch. Yeah. So I don't know if in cards it was easier for them to figure out when a card got pressed.
No, they can't.
So then, yeah, maybe it's just one of those
pressing things. You can, because cards have size standards. So if something goes out of scope, they can. But pressing a card, really, the reason most people press cards, the way I understand it anyways, is to trim them, because you want to make the surface a little bit larger so you can cut off the bad edges and size it back down again.
But what about the thickness, though?
I mean, most cards are pretty.
Especially
there's especially the older stuff. It was just way too fast and loose backs. There wasn't standards.
Got it.
For older vintage stuff to the same degree. Like, modern cards have varying thicknesses depending on the card that it is. But
Dan the Card Man did a video about this very thing, and shout out to Dan. And I responded to it, and I'm curious to see. I left a comment there, and I'm very curious to see how this plays out. Like, obviously in the comic book world, and sorry, I was reading comments while you're talking, so I apologize if I'm being redundant. But in the comic book world, there was a point in time where pressing and cleaning was like looked down upon, and it was kind of secretive, and it was some form of mild restoration. And then the community accepted it. And once the community accepted it, of course, the grading companies are going to offer it as a service. The community's already fine with it. Why would they not cash in? Yeah. I feel like, and listen, I am far more involved in the process of grading comics than I am in cards, but I am in both comics and cards in terms of being a collector. So I do care about these things. But it seems as though pressing or flattening a defect in cards, I'm not talking about using waxes and all this other stuff. I'm not talking about none of that craziness. I'm talking about just flattening out imperfections. It seems like it's going to just become less taboo and accepted on the card side too. Or am I just off base? Am I wrong?
No. Card. The way that I joked about this the other day is that the hardcore old school card people, they want virgin cards. They want cards that they could put on the altar and sacrifice to King Kong.
That's a best.
But what about as things change with new generations? How do those young go hard kids that are ripping boxes and breaking?
There has definitely been there is a segment of people that are more like want to lean in towards like, well, wait, how come you can clean and press a comic book and nobody cares about that, but you can't do it to it? There's definitely some push pull going on there, but as of right now, it's like politics. It's a major red button. It's a hot button issue, and none of the grading companies want to come out and say like, yeah, we're going to let this stuff fly. I think a lot of it, to be fair to the grading companies, also is this has been going on in comics a lot longer. So I don't know that they know, like, if you spray a card with spray, what happens in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to that item? Does it still actually look like it's never been sprayed with anything, or do issues pop up later on in life? And I think that's where the card grading companies are at with it. But to Chat's point and to your point, Manu, they still really can't catch a lot of this stuff. Now, a lot of the grading companies say they're actively working on ways to catch some of this stuff, but it's basically a game of cat and mouse. Yeah. So, but as of right now, all the major grading companies for cards specifically do not allow. Basically, what you could do: take a card, take a microfiber cloth, wipe fingerprints off of it like a dry microfiber, and that's really about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's essentially the extent of it.
So a couple of people in the chat were asking the question about pricing and stuff, which I don't think that they haven't said anything about pricing. No. But I will say, I do think it's interesting that CGC had a sale this month. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Yeah, I do think that's interesting, and I don't think that's for no reason. That's
they had a July summer sale, and in my recollection, this was the first time they've ever really done that. Like, just hey, we're having this much off this month, and it could be that just that's the state of the secondary market, and maybe they're not getting submissions and stuff. But you do have to wonder if there is a little bit of pressure, or that they're feeling, based on maybe what PSA, if they knew about PSA announcing this,
right?
Is PSA going to be able to beat their prices? Would PSA do you think they would come out of the gate just and undercut, the prices?
PSA tends to price fairly aggressively. And they run specials they have a new special that literally comes out every month.
Yeah.
The first of every month, they have a different special that comes out. And they're very smart. Like, they'll target it. It'll be like, we're doing basketball this month. We're doing football. We're doing any card graded or printed after the year 2000. Like, there's a lot of different, it's not just super broad based. It'll be very targeted. So if there's a certain angle that they want to attack, like, hey, we want to be really big in Golden Age, so we're going to run a massive Golden Age sale. Not saying that that's what they would go after, but any book printed between these dates is going to be 50% off or whatever they end up doing. They're going to play games like that for sure.
It's interesting because it's like, again, I don't think they've said their prices and stuff, and again, I'm always being coy, and I always feign a little bit of ignorance when I ask questions, to spark conversation and stuff. But like, I do think that hypothetically, if I was in their building and I saw their operation, and hypothetically, if I knew what they're capable of doing, then I would hypothetically guess that, they'll be able to beat the other grading company's pricing. That would be my guess, hypothetically.
Man, they are so impressive over there. I'm sorry, I'm a fanboy. I'm not a fanboy. I'm not a fanboy. I shouldn't have said that, but dang it was fun being there. That's all I got to say.
One thing we haven't talked about, and I want to preface this by, I am not 100% sure that this is going to be a thing. I've asked and I haven't gotten an answer back on it yet, just mostly because it's the weekend. PSA on the card side has a buyback guarantee. And this was obviously a big topic of discussion when all the CGC nonsense came out. So it's very specific in their grading terms that if there is an issue with a book an issue with a card after the fact, it was figured out that it was trimmed or that it wasn't authentic or whatever, they essentially have verbiage that says we will buy the book back or buy the card back off you at fair market value. Now, there's always some negotiation in that. It's not as clean cut and easy as it is, to say it. But I'm curious to see if they would roll that out also for comics as well, because that is a big deal on giving buyers confidence, especially on the higher end stuff. That PSA guarantee matters quite a bit for a lot of high end buyers, because they know if there's ever any issue with this, PSA is going to stand behind it and they're going to have my back to a degree. Like I said, you probably, just like an insurance claim, you're going to have to go to war a little bit for yourself, but as we all witnessed, I think all of us did a video, or I think actually Swags, I think we were on a live stream together when you actually pulled up the CGC website and read what the CGC guarantee is.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, is not a whole lot. Which the funny part on that is CGC Cards has a buyback guarantee, but the comic division doesn't.
Yeah,
which is a little interesting.
Well, it's interesting because they did this, and I think you covered this, right? There was an Otani card that was pressed, right, and that was like
trimmed. It was trimmed.
Trimmed, right? Okay, trimmed.
Yeah, it was serial numbered so that everyone knew exactly what card. There was no question that it wasn't the same card.
Got it.
You could clearly see someone trimmed it and regraded it.
Yeah, and they did the buyback thing in that.
Correct. I don't know what the details of that are because they usually make you sign an NDA, especially for high-end stuff.
Yeah.
I just know that the owner of that card was satisfied.
Right.
Because they reached out to me specifically.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like, I feel like with CGC, like their language definitely, like shout out to Drew.
It's non-existent.
We guarantee it the real book, but like.
And what, the 2 people looked at it.
Yeah,
wasn't that the guarantee? We guarantee it's a comic book and at least 2 people looked at it.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee no one stole it or no one swapped it, but 2 people looked at it.
And we didn't say that they were graders. We said 2 people looked at it, meaning the person who had to put it in the case also looked at it.
And the person that packaged it up for shipping.
Yeah. So they don't have that in their language. Obviously there's been certain situations where they've taken care of their customers and stuff like that, but they definitely leave it intentionally vague so that they don't put themselves in liable positions if they don't have to be. But yeah, it's cool to hear that with PSA that they kind of have a we'll take care of you first policy. But like you said, nothing is perfect, but it's nice to know that exists for sure.
Has there been, I don't want to go too off topic here, but has there been much updates in that whole buying books back, the CGC nonsense? Like that really kind of went quiet and I haven't heard a peep anywhere. Like, are people got checks? Are people still waiting? Like,
I can speak. Swag, you want to?
Yeah, go for
it. I've stayed in touch with a few people, and there were great delays in sending out the checks. They had established with certain people the values and gotten agreements. I am privy to negotiations. I'm privy to a negotiation starting at 7,500 and ending at 15,000. Like those sorts of variances in what people were getting paid back. I know of people that both had the same books. Both people received something different based on how much they were willing to fight. Like you said, the insurance company example. At the moment, and they do, ask to sign an agreement that says, you're not going to say squat about this anymore, and we're going to send you a check. They only send you the check once you sign the agreement. But there were a lot of delays, and I spoke to a friend the other day that asked me if he should take this one additional step. I can't say the additional step because it's not my place to give that sort of advice, and it might backfire. And he kept getting the runaround about when the check would come. They kept saying about some team was on vacation or break, some stuff, someplace otherwise. And then he sent this one message, and immediately within minutes, the check's going to go out tomorrow. And the check went out the next day type of thing, right? So I don't know what sort of wacky game they're playing. They keep using this excuse about the insurance companies. They have agreed to send out certain amounts of money, but some people have not had the check hit the mail yet. So that's kind of the only update that I have at the moment. But it was sort of sad to see that you got how much you were willing to fight for. And not everyone's got the same sort of fight in them, Not everyone's equipped or wants to deal with that kind of shit, So, but some people got exactly what they wanted without having to fight at all, just because the last sale was greater than what they paid, And they were like, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I did check out, shout out to Paul Lesko, hobby lawyer. I think he did make a comment on his Twitter, or X, I should say, a little bit of an update with the kind of lawsuit stuff. And I think it's actually possible that maybe even next week, there's going to be some information coming out about it. Like maybe those lawsuits are ending. So I don't know if that has anything to do specifically with like the payouts, but maybe there was a factor there. But if there is, something of note or substantial, I'll certainly cover it in some kind of way. Yeah.
I think CGC is pretty pleased with how that kind of got quiet for a while, and but yeah, I just hope so. Who cares, man? I want PSA to make them sweat so we can get just better grading in general, the better grading experience in general.
Swish Rips asks an interesting question. Do we think part of the new 9-9 initiative, shall we call it, at CGC, do you think that do you think that had anything to do with, because I have to imagine, listen, CGC is not a stupid company. I have to imagine they've probably known about this. Probably not when, but that it was probably happening. I have to imagine for at least.
I have to.
Oh yeah. Listen, people talk. I hear things. You guys hear things. You know, it's like they knew that this was coming. Yeah, maybe they didn't know specifically when, but I kind of doubt that. You know, from a corporate standpoint, that this would be something that they're getting into their corporate offices and like, oh, we need to release the 9-9 thing. You know, they're not like. It's not. I doubt that it's a move in sort of a response to this. It's sort of like this is just one factor.
Do you think CGC? I'm trying to think how I want to word this. I guess. Do you think CGC cares that PSA is coming in, or do you think they're just like whatever? Like, are they going to be? Is CGC arrogant enough to be dismissive of PSA and not take them serious, or are they smart enough to go like? Okay, you know, we're number one. We're probably going to be number one for a long time, if not ever. But like, okay, we at least need to like, if we have an issue, we need to be a little bit more on top of it now because PSA exists.
That part. I think they're arrogant. Sorry, please.
Oh no, I was just saying, I can't really say what I think because it's colored by what I know. So I'm going to let Manu speak.
Okay. I think they're arrogant enough to think that customers will just take anything that they shovel. I definitely believe that they're arrogant enough to believe that and operate in that way. I do not think they're arrogant enough to think that PSA can't eat their lunch. You know, they had the nerve to go after, take a bite out of the card market. They had to have known this was coming ever since then. That's the first shot fired. So regardless of them hearing about any of this, as soon as they decided to do cards, they started gearing up for PSA coming for comics. That's just how battle and competition in business works. So I think they were always, they knew that this would happen. They might not have known when the day would come, but I think this is the only thing that has a chance of keeping them honest or, making them actually try to do something right by the customers. Customers complaining does less than PSA entering the market is what my belief is. Time will tell, but that's my belief.
Yeah.
Another interesting aspect is it's like there's this ramp up period now. Like, do they poach graders? Do they poach other people from CGC? CGC people have to be like, if you're slightly disgruntled, now you actually have like another legitimate company that you could go to. Like before, if you were like a well-respected grader at CGC, or maybe not even a grader, maybe something to do with customer service or research or whatever, and you're like, man, this sucks coming in here every day, but like, what am I going to do? I want to work in the comic book industry, but I don't have anyone else legitimate to go to. Well, now all of a sudden you do. Like, and I don't know what the pay differences are and all that stuff, but you at least have like viable competition from that aspect of it, from like just a straight jobs perspective.
Yeah, to the point of my thumbnail, shout out to the wrestling fans out there. But this is like WCW, WWF right now. This you got two players. I mean, it's not quite at that level. I mean, again, PSA is a long way away. They're not even active yet. They're not even coming out until 2025. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But if they can come out of the gate and be somewhat viable, I mean, it just gives another option. Which again, CBCS is another option out there. But I think with their launch, it's exciting for people. I think the excitement with CBCS, outside of them doing a new marketing campaign, or something to get the excitement out there, it's like it's just not there right now. So yeah, it just gives people that other outlet, both on the collector side and if, like you said, if you work in the industry, if you're a dealer who wants to have an alternative, or you're a grader who wants to jump ship, you can actually do that now.
Yeah, sure.
Our friend Andrew R.S. Cali just entered, and I think he's sharing the sentiment, but he's adding something to it. He said, I missed a fair bit, so maybe it was discussed. If I were CGC, I'd be cautious. But if I were CBCS, I'd be straight up scared. Does CBCS lose number 2 spot? And if so, when? And we talked about it a little bit, but like not obviously it's just opinions, not anything conclusive. But yeah, man, this has got to be really bad for them. And then PGX entered the discussion just playfully, and we kind of dismissed that. But this is like Mickey said, the JSA thing was already, a nice not nice. It was already, sort of a blow to CBCS. This has got to just be like, they got to be just over there thinking, well, like, when should we just not open up the doors
Yeah,
again?
yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
It's a shame with CBCS because, like, I got to be honest, I really love their new label. Every time I see their case, I love it more and more. I think that they killed it with their labels. I think they look fantastic, and I want them to do well. I want to like them, but I feel like they really just lost steam. Like, once they came out with their label, it was really exciting. Everyone was talking about it, but you haven't really heard much from them. And I don't know if they just don't have the infrastructure in place to stay out there in terms of their marketing. Or what they need to do. It feels like they don't have very good positioning statements. They don't have great brand awareness, and they just don't really take a stand for much in terms of like who they are as a company. Like, as far as CBCS is concerned, like, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, as somebody who's worked in the creative field for his entire life and knows a lot about marketing and stuff, like, dude, CBCS, hire me, I'll help you. But like, essentially your tagline is like, we're second place. Right. That's their tagline. That's their brand. CBCS, we're second place.
Well, I remember I sent you guys that picture from Heroes Con of CBCS's booth on the busiest time of the day on Saturday afternoon, and it was like a ghost town.
Yeah.
Oh man.
There was like nobody in line. There was like one person in line at the desk. It was like 4 folding tables, was just guys sitting behind it. And meanwhile, CGC's booth was like just insane.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I don't know what it is. It's just like, yeah, Drew saw the picture too. He's like, the picture just makes me sad. Like, even the auction houses where it's like Heritage is the biggest auction house, but I still feel like Comic Connect and Comic Link still have like an ownable brand in their own right, whereas like it's still unclear to me what CBCS's version.
They're not CGC. Like Chat just said it. It's just, they're for the not CGCers.
Yeah. We're just not CGC. Like, so, and again, I'm not trying to disparage them. I'm saying this is something that if I was the CMO over there, this would be my number one thing that I'd be trying to figure out,
Angry straight white male. I really need to watch. I mean, I don't want to disrespect the episode and be like, someone give me the Cliffs Notes. I need to watch that episode from Keep It Thorough. Someone mentioned something to me about a different lawsuit, the Myers lawsuit or something. And I am so unaware of what that situation is, but people seem to be passionate about it. I like to keep my finger on the pulse, so I got to catch up to what's going on there. But yeah. There's been some crooked activities, no question.
For sure.
This is this question here where Armando Dio6 said it. Now RS Cali is bringing it up. He said, not in the know of cards as much, but could there be a Beckett PSA merger, or is each entity too large as mentioned? And I've heard Neo speak about this. I don't think it's so much that they're too large. What are the complications in ownership? Beckett owns CBCS, but what's Beckett's ownership? Why do people say it would be a hard company to buy? There's some complications there that you referenced before.
The owner's tied up in a lot of legal drama. I think the owner's actually in jail and has been for a while.
Okay, that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, for basically skimming, I think, money off the top. I forget the specifics of it. But there's a lot of... So people basically on the sports card side, people want Beckett to be sold and want them brought back to like what they once were because of the name recognition of it. The problem is that anyone coming in just wants to buy Beckett, and Beckett has all these other little ancillary add-ons underneath it. Like they have, like a lot of people would want Beckett, the sports card grading company, but probably wouldn't want CBCS. So if you're looking to buy the Beckett brand, you don't give a crap about CBCS. But if you're selling Beckett, you have all these boat anchors that go onto it. Like Beckett has a VHS grading division. They have a Beckett Collect, which is like a collection management tool software that they paid millions for. They have the Beckett Vault, which they've put a ton of money in that nobody uses. So like there's all these other things that if you're the owner of that company and you're selling it, that's like your opportunity to kind of tack that. It's like a bad sports trade. Like you got to tack the bad contracts on to get them off your books. by trading away the one good asset that you have, and no one wants to take on all that extra junk. Is basically the way that I understand it. So the same would probably be maybe they could just spin off CBCS, but I've also heard the way that the companies are all intertwined with each other, it would be very hard to piece things out. So once again, if lawyers want to sit down and figure it out, they probably could. If anyone wants to write a check, they'll figure it out. But it just seems like there's extra layers of complexity. That was part of the reason why PSA grabbed SGC, or Collectors Universe grabbed SGC, was because they were a standalone company, family owned, with no ties to anything else. So it was a very clean transaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any more word on that? Is it going to be SGC going forward, or are they going to actually just?
As of right now, it's just SGC going forward as its own independent company under the Collectors Universe wing.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Well.
No, we can't go. There's more. No,
Yeah, there could be more. I mean, we didn't really talk the last thing about case security, and it is kind of nice how much, that comes into play with PSA.
Yeah,
well, I mean, we kind of talked about it early on with like the medical grade plastic.
That's true. Yeah, we did a little bit, but
in case people, I mean, if you guys want to add anything in, feel free. Like, fire away.
What I'll say is, the prototype that we had an opportunity to handle and play with. The prototype, where there's going to be, as I'm informed, as we're told, a different version of it that actually becomes what we pay for to encapsulate our books in early 2025. So they're going to make improvements based on collected feedback. But I'm sure the mechanism of closing it is the same, and it seems to be more akin to CBCS's. Listen, I'm not technical. I don't know what I'm saying, but it seems to be more of a clamshell sort of situation rather than just like a flat edge meeting a flat edge where you can just stick something in and pry it. It looks like the card slab to a certain degree. It's one of those things that you have to mangle, bend, twist, and bend out of shape to get open. Yeah. It's not. It doesn't appear to be something that is that you can mess with and close it again. Like, it just doesn't. But of course, that's off my first impressions. I haven't had time to play with it or try to break into it. I'm eager to have that opportunity, but it seems like it's going to be a very secure case. I don't want to be too ignorant when I say that, but I'm ignorant to experience with it to a certain degree, and I'm waiting. But it definitely seems like it's very secure compared to a CGC case.
Definitely. And also,
people are asking about Newton rings. I don't know this answer for sure. I know on cards, part of the switch to this plastic was to help cut down on the cards sticking to. Newton rings aren't a huge thing in sports cards. They do pop up occasionally.
Yeah, I have Newton rings on cards here, but older slabs from PSA.
Yeah, part of the switch up that they did with this plastic and a slightly modified card case was to help ease up on some of that. So it wasn't the sole reason why, but that was one of the benefits of the switch. So
I don't know if
that would apply to comics or not.
Yeah, my understanding is that these will not have Newton rings. That's my understanding.
Do we know, have we gotten confirmation on what, if any, levels of UV protection they'll have?
Man, I asked, I forgot. Mickey, do you remember the answer?
Well, I wasn't there. So I don't know.
And I should add, the Newton rings that I have on PSA slabs are on a different sort of PSA slab. It's where the card is smaller and it's sandwiched. There's like a thing sandwiching the card within the thing.
The weird size cards.
The weird size cards. So I remember that statement that PSA released where they're like, we made sure Newton rings are not a thing with the new cases anymore. And obviously they have to revisit those new cases, but they're going to. So hopefully it's not a problem. But if it is an issue, they are going to hear about it immediately because comic book people hate that. Is Mickey frozen, or is he really adamant?
Oh no, I was really adamant to point to this, but I was letting you finish your statement. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
No, I was just gonna say, Holy Harlot mentions I would put crazy amounts of graders notes on it. This is something we didn't address.
Right.
They guarantee graders notes for everything.
Yep.
Every book is going to have graders notes.
That's what they
said.
It's a
bold statement.
It's what we asked for, and it's what they said. I hope they deliver it.
I hope they deliver. This is something that, again, we didn't talk about this because I wasn't there. But hypothetically, when we did talk about it, it was a conversation because it was sort of like, can they really guarantee that as they get a submission of, 100 modern books that are all going to hit PSA 9.8s, like they're really going to put graders notes for all of them?
I mean, there has to be a reason why I didn't get a 9.9 or a 10, right?
There has to be a reason.
But we've all at this point seen videos of how the graders get through large swaths of books. So it's sort of like, my commentary on it has always been like, well, this is why they don't do graders notes, because it's just a stack and a process of elimination, and they're not going to spend the time to say, oh, upper left corner, small corner crunch.
So they actually just rolled graders notes out for sports cards, which is unprecedented none of the 4 major grading companies did graders notes. Beckett did subgrades, but they just rolled out graders notes. Right now they're limiting it to the high end submissions.
Okay.
Like if you just submit a $15 card, you're not getting graders notes. But if you're submitting a Jordan rookie or a Mantle rookie, you're getting graders notes. So that's new. Yeah. I think the other thing to keep in mind too, and once again, it's going to be 2 different grading teams. It's apples to oranges, but PSA is used to grading 1.4 million items a month. They're not going to get anywhere near that number of comics. I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, hypothetically, you guys were in there. I've never been in a PSA building. Hypothetically, both of you were.
Yeah, I've never been in there.
You could speak to.
I was in there.
I mean,
I've never been in a grading room over at PSA.
You guys could speak to the level of shenanigans, and I mean shenanigans in a good way, not a bad way, of like how insane it actually is.
Dude, it's so beautiful. I got to stop because it seems like I'm pumping some stock. I'm just saying, I had a smile. I love this stuff, but that's why they could have showed me anything. I would have had a smile. It's cool, right? But it was actually, it beat my expectations. Their new operations. It's a new facility that we toured, and it's up and running. It's beautiful. It's packed. There's people all over the place. There's different departments for all kinds of things. It's a great place to be as far as what I saw.
I mean, what it comes down to? It's I actually do have an answer to my hypothetical conversation. It really, at the end of the day, it's all process, right? Like, it's a tall order to get them to put graders notes on everything, but at the same time, if the processes are there, then the processes are there, and they can make it efficient. And so I think that they can do it. Anyways,
I want to okay, so I'm just going to, again, I shouldn't, but Alex says also, who will be grading comics at PSA? Surely they're not going to divide up comic grading duties between card graders. All I know is that to head up the grading, they are turning to decades and decades of experience, right? What happens, beneath that, who do they hire to do what the experienced people are training them to do? I don't know, but I'm with you. I'm going to look forward to finding out more. So I don't know, but I know that they're starting at a base of decades of experience, and we have yet to find out more about that. We know things, but we're going to let them say things. Swish says, yeah, the label sucks with PSA. He's responding to our friend Last Pack Magic that said the label needs to change. And then he goes on to say, Manu actually likes the label on a card level. He likes its library index card feel. I do. I'm curious, Manu, what about books for the PSA label? And I'm going to be really honest. After hearing, I knew that people are going to be like, what is that? I knew it. There's no chance, no version of it was going to get everyone to love it. There was always going to be a lot of people saying, what is that? And I was just like, you know what? Let's just go. Let's start accurately grading books and let's go. Like, that's where I was at. And now, after hearing so much, I was accepting of it. I'm just going to be honest. Would I have done it a little differently? Possibly. If I was the designer to do it, there'd probably 100 versions that I'd be toying with and still toying with them. But that's not what I'm doing. And so I was sort of just accepting of it. But now I really do want to see them make at least some changes, just so we, again, know that they're listening and they want to please us. So it's going to be some version of what we saw, and it's probably going to be very close to what we saw, but maybe there'll be some changes. I am admittedly accepting of it, but I cannot ignore the fact that most people want something different. Hopefully that's not a crazy, it's definitely, people make a really good point. They're like, comic books are a visual thing. We like the art. We like to display them. And I get it. And I don't display as many of my books as many other people do. People have walls of books. So the aesthetic appeal, it absolutely applies. I can't ignore that. I just don't know how they're going to satisfy everyone. There's going to be a compromise. There's going to be them trying to satisfy us and us accepting them, and then and hopefully getting used to them. I don't know. It's not a perfect process here.
No, it's super interesting. And sorry, I was being, I can't help myself. I'm sorry, guys. I know
What happened?
But
I filling out a job application as a PSA grader.
Yeah, they have.
Oh.
I was filling out my PSA grading application, which I thought of it because here it is on their collector's website, guys. I mean, anyone
get in there, guys.
You know,
come on,
go apply. Get in there. You know, you can apply.
We gotta change things we gotta move the needle from the inside.
Yeah, but you know, the interesting thing about it is it's like, you know, we still have yet to find out, okay, who's going to be the head grader. We don't know the grading system that they're going to use, because even CGC in theory now has their own sort of grading guide that is specific to CGC. I mean, in a way, it's sort of like derivative of Overstreet. And you sort of have to wonder, like, you know, even with CBCS, like, it doesn't really feel like they have a Bible that is sort of like, this is our grading Bible. Like, this is how we grade. Maybe they do. Forgive me if I don't actually know. But I'm curious if we're ever going to get that with PSA. Like, are they ever going to come out and say, like, here's our grading guide? Like, how are they going to grade? You know, what do they view as flaws and stuff? So it's a lot of questions still, you know, a lot of unknowns.
Absolutely. There are. Yeah, man. Yeah. But right around the corner, there's going to be more information and more fun stuff to sort of participate with. But literally, there's 6 months. Rob brings up a great point. There's 6 months for them to hire, to bring the right people in.
At least 6 months. We don't know. 2025 is a whole year.
Yeah. It could be December 31st, 2025. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah, exactly. You know, and there's a lot of time for them to listen to us. You know, I know that's just what I'm excited about. I love that. Like, they are listening. Man, dude, if somebody wants to design a label and like email it to us, and maybe we could pass it along just to see, you know, I don't know. I don't want to encourage that.
Just tag their Instagram. I'm sure that they watch all that, you know?
Yeah.
Just keep a red border around it.
The red border's here to stay. That's who they are.
Yeah.
You know?
That's their brand. You know, they have to keep that, which is funny because it's like the red is sort of like this toxic scarlet letter within the labels of comic grading, you know, that before used to have red. People hated that, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah,
coming back.
I think Fiddle Chips kind of nailed it, and that's kind of what we've been saying this whole time. Of you know, PSA will never beat CGC, but they don't have to. Like, that's really the nail on the head right there. We don't need PSA to beat CGC. We need PSA to keep CGC honest, and they're the only entity in existence that could really do it. Because anyone else would be a spin up from the ground up with no outside knowledge, whereas at least PSA has a name and a ton of backing and a ton of infrastructure. So that's legitimately all that we need. We don't need them to beat CGC. We need them to be a good number 2.
Yeah. Yes.
If they beat CGC in 5, maybe we're all sitting here in 10 years when we're, you know, in our retirees, we could do this around McDonald's drinking coffee. It'll be an early morning stream instead of a late night stream with the old folks, and we're on here talking, and maybe in 10 or 15 years we're talking about, like, damn, yeah, look at PSA, man. Remember when CGC was number 1? That was cute.
Or it could happen, man. It could happen. Mr. Morrison says, start your own company. 9.9 is the highest grade. This is an inside joke with Rob, even Mickey and myself. Is like, yeah, I actually do believe the 9.9 should be the top grade, because I don't think 10s exist. Like, I think 10s are foolish. You know, Rob wants to do away with 9.9s. I want to do away with 10s. But in the world of PSA, there's no way we do away with 10s. I mean, they're in the business of 10s, of course, right? So I guess I would have to start my own. I will exclusively grade 9.9s. Everything is a 9.9 pre-screen. And everything that doesn't qualify for my standards of a 9.9 gets rejected. Mickey, will you invest?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, done. Okay.
Well, fellas, we've been going 2 hours. We talked PSA, slabs, coming soon. I have a sneaking suspicion that within
3 days,
a week,
4 days,
that we might find out more info.
Yeah, it's San Diego Comic-Con this week.
In an unrelated note, San Diego Comic-Con is right around the corner. And I got to do a little bit of a plug, guys. I'm going to be there. And our company, 24/7 Comics is going to be there. We got a new title coming out. It's called Zero Ghost. It's by Justin Jordan, art by Brian Ching. Marvel and DC great writers and artists. We got the Kickstarter page. Go give it a follow. And I got a very special treat because I'm going to play the world premiere of the trailer here, right now. Special, exclusive drop of Zero Ghost. Check it out.
Growing up in this city taught me one thing. Everyone makes a deal with the devil. I just never expected mine to be real. You see, this place is run by 5 families. And in order to get anywhere in this world, you need to work with them. Play by their rules. That's what my father told me before he went missing. Before he was taken. Alliances built on a foundation of deceit. And now I make new bonds. Ones that can never be broken. Power is the only true pact. It's why I've traded everything for it. With it, I'll take my vengeance. Everyone here makes a deal with the devil, including me. It's why I'm now a shell, a carapace, a vessel, a zero ghost.
Shout out to Justin Jordan, Brian Ching, Zero Ghosts coming out next month. We got the exclusive premiere at San Diego Comic-Con. We got the book coming out. We're going to have a signing at booth 1630, July 27th, 1 p.m. to 2:30. So come on over, check it out. It's going to be a good time. It's a great book. If you like your femme fatale, a little bit of Spawn, vengeance sort of thing, you're going to like it. You're going to like it. So go give the Kickstarter a follow, the pre-launch page over there. And yeah, if something you guys are interested in, check it out. So thank you for watching.
That was very cool. Oh, my bad.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh yeah, awesome. Appreciate it.
That was incredible. I didn't know. I had no idea. Like, that was very awesome. So I'm impressed.
Well, you know, we make good stuff, guys. We make good stuff. But I just, you know what? I just report the news. That's all I do.
Yeah.
I just report the news. I report the news. Yeah. Guys, I don't know anything. Nobody tells me nothing.
Right. We're on the outside always. Jeez.
Well, before we wrap up, Rob, Manu, what do you guys got going on coming up? What's happening? Got anything to promote out there? Anything coming up this week? Rob, can you get on a last-minute flight to San Diego Comic-Con?
No, that ship sailed because the Nationals this week. That'll be what everything that's going on my side of the world. This is, those that don't know, the National is essentially the San Diego Comic-Con of sports cards. And it is in my, I don't want to say my hometown, but it's about 45 minutes away from me this year in Cleveland, Ohio. So yeah, that'll be my entire week. Show starts Wednesday. So I got a new camera. I got new gear to test out. We got it'll be chaos.
Nice. What about you, Manu? What do you got going on coming up?
I mean, just more of the same, but there is something coming up because I was having a little fun with things that I knew, and I just was having fun. No one knew what I was talking about, but I did a giveaway on my page. The giveaway is still open, and I called the giveaway the PSA plus SDCC giveaway. And we've alluded to things here tonight that, you know, possibly there's something cool happening at SDCC. So I was having some fun, but basically all I want to say is, you know, stop by the Instagram. Thank you. Yeah, stop. And here are the items that are being given away. It's an SDCC high grade copy of Wizard #1, the SDCC edition, and that one, and a PSA 10 of the Overpower Wizard promo card. This isn't from the Overpower set. This is a promo for the Overpower set. This was included in the poly bag for Wizard #50, which wore this cover, an homage to this cover, on its cover. And so I'm giving these two away to one person. The contest is still available to enter. I'm not going to draw it until after SDCC. But things like that on my Instagram page. I share my personal collection. I offer things for sale. So if we aren't already acquainted on Instagram, that's my hub. I would love for you to come hang out on my Instagram and say hi to me there sometimes. That's all I got. Thank you.
There you go. Go give it a follow. Go over here. Get yourself the chance to win.
Yeah, why not? Let's add this to someone's collection. They're cool things. And thank you.
All right. Well, there we go, guys. That was our conversation. Yeah. Thanks so much for hanging out in the chat tonight. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, we will be going to San Diego Comic-Con. I'm sure there'll be more news coming out of there that we'll talk about. I'm pretty excited. I got to be honest. I'm very, very excited. I think Hall H is going to be huge. I think Deadpool is going to be huge. But maybe I'm full of cope. I don't know.
Maybe you just know things.
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
Hypothetically.
This
has been the news reported by.
This has been the news reported by Swag, Neo, and the 99 Newsstand. Anyways, that's all we got. I don't know how to end the stream properly. Thanks so much for hanging, guys. We'll see y'all on the next one.
Everybody.
Peace out.